Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Scale Model Kit Review. Welcome back to another exciting installment of Build the Batmobile by FanHome. Welcome back to Scale Model Kit Review Studio, and welcome back to another installment of the FanHome Build the Batmobile. I am working on pack number 9, phases 39 through 44. If you haven't done so already, head over to FanHome and subscribe to this card today. So starting with this pack, I'm going to be condensing the video down even more to make the video shorter, but I will highlight important build processes, any tips they may have for you, or any tricks of the build and so forth. I'm no longer going to show the entire magazine as I did in the past. I will show the instructions, but that's about it. I'll also combine some of the phases together. That way it kind of makes sense if we have a bunch of phases dealing with assembling one of the wheels and tires. They're going to be combined together just to make the video shorter. So anyway, with this pack number 9, these are the parts I received. 39 are some of the brake components for the back wheels. Stage 40, the wheel. Stage 41, the tire. Stage 42, once again, parts for the wheel. Stage 43, exhaust parts. And stage 44, more exhaust parts. Also, I received the binder to put the magazines into, and it's really more like a holder for the magazines, and it's very nice there to have it that way. Assembly for this is very simple. Just follow the little instructions on the bottom of the box here on how to fold everything together. Let's get started on phase 39. Let's look at the instructions for phase 39. Here's the parts for 39. And the first thing I do is cut the brake hoses, one 50 millimeter, one 150 millimeter, and 3 500 millimeter. Attach those lines to the drums, left and right. Run the hoses down to the axle. Fitting the right drum. And running the brake hoses along the chassis. And that's what it should look like when we're done. Let me get the parts, I'll be right back. Here's the parts pack for phase 39. Let's get a closer look. And here's a close-up of those parts. This would be the brake drum and the backing plate for the brakes, all made of plastic. And the hose connectors and the hose themselves. Let's get started. This is how I measure my hose with a digital caliper. And here's the hoses all cut. We have a 50 millimeter, 150 millimeter, and 3 500 millimeters. And just a little extra left over. And I'm going to hook up the 500 millimeter hose to the brake hose junction. I put a little CA glue on the end of it. And that should hold it just fine. This is going to get mounted to the rear axle. And here's our brake drum backing plate. And you can see I have the hoses hooked up to it. They are marked with a left and a right. So this is the left side. If you'll notice, there's 2 raised sections here. So you want to install the 50 millimeter on the pin that's near those raised sections, and 1 of your 500 millimeters on the other side. Now for the right side, same thing. The raised section there, you want to install the 150 millimeter up there, and then the 500 millimeter down below it. Now we'll go ahead and install this on the chassis. Okay, so both backing plates are installed on both sides, and I ran the 50 millimeter to the junction right there, and ran the 150 millimeter from the other side. Also to the junction there, and then I ran the cabling from the top of the junction down the side of the chassis. Then I ran the 500 millimeter down the bottom of the chassis, right along the drive shaft, both sides, out the front. And you can see where the other brake hose runs along the side of the chassis. Now as far as the shocks go, I'm glad I super glued the springs so it kind of holds it in place. It doesn't come loose, and eventually the weight of the car will compress those, and it really won't affect the springs on those shocks. We have 2 leftover parts for the brake drums, so let's go ahead and head over and start on phase 40. Let's look at the instructions for phase 40. And right here you can see here's our parts. We received 2 parts of the wheel, and those are going to go together just like that. And like I said, I'm going to combine this, so we'll look at 41 next. This time we received the tire for 41, fitting the tire to the rim. And 42. More parts for the rim. I fit all that together. We've done this before. And we'll fit that to the chassis. Let me get the parts. I'll be right back. Here's the parts for 40. Let's get a closer look. And here they are. This is metal, and the chrome part is plastic. Let's look at the parts for 41. Here's the part for 41. Let's get a closer look. And here's the tire. Very nice there. Let's go ahead and look at the parts for 42. Parts for 42. Let's get a closer look. Here's those parts: AM, FM, and CP screws. We see the plastic washer and the other part of the rim made of metal, and the center cap, the bat, very cool there, along with the cap itself, which is chrome. Both of those are plastic. Okay. And 40s together, that's what that looks like. Mount the tire for 41, and then 42 goes on that, and we'll put our screws into that. And here you go. 5 CP screws went into this. Remember, you're going into plastic here, so don't over tighten them. And next we'll take the brake drum, and we'll mount that inside there. It only goes on one way, and 2 AM screws go into that. They're going into metal, so you might want to put a little oil on those screws. And I used a larger screwdriver for this, a PH1 screwdriver, and you can see they're installed all the way with a little bit of oil. And that's what it looks like. Now we can go ahead and mount this to the car. Okay, so I added the washer to the screw already, and I started the threads on the axle, so I'll slide this on the axle and tighten it down. And you can see there, screw is tight, no slop, and still rotates. And we'll just press fit that to the cap And that completes phases 40, 41, and 42. Let's head over and do phases 43 and 44 together. Let's look at the build instructions for both phase 43 and 44. So for 43, we receive the left and right exhaust pipes. And we'll mount that to the chassis, both sides. And let's look at the instructions for 44. Here are the parts. These are the left and right resonators, as they call them. And we won't mount those. They'll be left over for the next phase that we do later on. Let's look at the parts. Here's the parts for 43. Let's get a closer look. Here's the exhaust system pipes. They are made of plastic. All three of them are. And the muffler tops, as they call them. AP screws, KP screws, and CM screws. And here's phase 44. Let's get a closer look. BP screws, and looks like the tailpipes, and tops and bottom of the resonators. And your exhaust pipes are marked with a left and a right, and then of course you have the center crossover pipe that goes in between them. And the crossover pipe is designed to get mounted underneath, just like that. And we'll put a screw into that, a KP screw on each side. So both exhaust pipes will install on this crossover. I installed the muffler tops to the pipes, and make sure that your arrows on the muffler tops are pointing towards the pipes using AP screws. And you can see the direction here for both. Here's the left exhaust pipe with muffler, and there's the crossover installed with the KP screw. Now we're going to install this on the chassis, then we'll install the right exhaust pipe on it, because this has to go underneath all the chassis frame and cross members and such. I'll be right back. And there you go. Muffler is installed with the CM screw. I put a little oil on it, and you'll notice the pipe goes under the chassis there and feeds over to the other side, and we'll hook that up to the other muffler on the other side next. Okay, while I was lining up this right side exhaust system to the crossover, I left it loose. I mounted it but left the screw loose there, and then I went ahead and mounted the crossover tube to it, installed the screw tight. Then I came back and I retightened the mufflers on both sides because they were both loose. So now everything's lined up, and that's how that looks. Now let's head over and do 44. Here's our left resonator, and it's marked with an L. And we're going to be using the top of it, which looks like that. We're going to take our exhaust pipe, and we're going to mount that to that point right there. And you can see it has an indentation to allow it to slide into that mount point. Be using a BP screw for that. And to finish off the resonator, we're going to put the two halves together, and it only goes on one way. You have the center hole for the tailpipe. We're going to put two more BP screws into this. And both resonators are complete. They look great. Left side and the right side. We don't do anything with this. So that completes phases 43 and 44. I'll be right back. And there you go. That completes pack 9. We did a lot here, especially to the left side of the car. Installed the left wheel and tire on that. We assembled that, of course. The exhaust system with mufflers on both sides. The brake lines are all installed, running all the way up to the front. I did use CA glue to glue those on the points they needed to. We assembled both of the resonators, and I have a leftover part for the drum on the right side. So if you think you'd like to get this for yourself, head over to FanHome. I put a direct link in the description below where you can subscribe to this. Click on that. It lets FanHome know you're watching my videos. If you like my content, please subscribe to my channel and smash that like button. Until Pack 10, we're almost at the halfway point with this, folks, and it's looking great. Take care, everybody.